Congratulations on 20 incredible consecutive years of going to Heart and Hand House for the work trip in Philippi, West Virginia. It's hard for me to believe that it's been that many years in a row, especially considering how it all started way back then. Please forgive my appearance. I'm at hunting camp, just finishing a trip of bear hunting and getting ready for deer season in a few days. And my son and daughter, Lydia and James, are seniors this year. So this will probably be the last time my son and I get to hunt deer for a while. So that's why I can't be with all of you tonight. Let me go back for a moment and recollect how this all started. As I recall, when I got to Asbury United Methodist Church, the youth group had been wanting to do a work trip for a long time. There was a lot of discussion about it, but people just didn't quite know how to start, what to do. There was no experience for a while, so I came on the scene and decided, hey, let's just do it. So one night, on a Sunday night, I announced to our youth group that we were going to be doing a work trip, but that we needed some help. Primarily, we needed some adult supervision, and we needed some tool men, some men who were handy with tools, knew how to construct buildings, do repairs, maybe fix some chimneys. And so I announced this to the youth group, and that night, I remember two of the boys, Matt and Andy, went home and parent napped their dad. What I mean by that is that they went home and told their dad what the youth pastor had said, and they needed him to go along on this trip because he had a lot of experience working with his dad, and after all, he was an engineer and knew about tools, so he had to go along. Otherwise, you weren't going to be able to do this trip. Well, as they say, the rest is history, and the toolmen began. That first trip was quite an experience, to say the least. There are a couple stories I remember that I want to share right now. The one was that we worked in this one site, a house, for Miss Winona. And John Rome was in the kitchen where we were going to be doing some painting, and he had this really bright yellow t-shirt on. So when they asked Miss Winona what color she wanted her walls to be in the kitchen, she pointed to John's shirt and said, "That color." Well, they tried to talk her out of this color because it was, as they say, highway yeller, but they couldn't talk her out of it, and that's the exact color her kitchen was painted that year. Another funny story happened when the toolman Rich was talking with her about a new closet to be put into her room because there was not much storage space or closet space in her house. And she was on oxygen with this tube running all over the house, and sometimes the machine would come unplugged. So Rich, being the electrician, toolman, and engineer, figured a way to fix all of this. And that was by installing a closet for her to provide more storage space, and also a new receptacle and place for her machine. The only thing was that when he was asking her about all these things regarding her storage and her machine, he didn't realize that he was stepping on her oxygen tube. And the more they talked, the more he seemed to think she was distressed but couldn't quite figure out what the problem was. Suddenly, she couldn't breathe anymore and said, "Please get off my tube." With that being said, the job was completed within the week and she could breathe much better. Another funny story happened up on the roof. I never knew what a hip roof was before then. After all, I'm just a dumb pastor, right? So we're up on this hip roof and we had to reshingle it. Two funny stories. One, the more we worked, the more we realized that there was another problem besides the roof, and that was the chimney. It was literally falling apart. Now, down in West Virginia, you all know that people talk a little funny down there. It wasn't called a chimney. It was called a chimley. It took us quite a while to figure out what the person was talking about when they used that term, but we figured it out eventually, and Rich decided that he could do it. He could fix the chimney. Well, he did such a great job that the neighbor wanted him to fix theirs. I don't think he had time for that, but he was a good chimney fixer. Secondly, one of the boys, Matt or Andy, I think it might have been Andy, but I'm not remembering right now, one of them were working with me on the hip roof, shingling up the way. Now, a hip roof has angles on both sides as it comes to the peak on each of the 4 sides. We're working on the back side, and I'm getting to the second layer where we've got to cut this angle. And I cut this angle carefully, measured it twice, cut once, but it didn't fit. So I grabbed a new shingle, measured 3 times, cut once, and it didn't fit again. I wasn't quite sure what the problem was until I tried it again a 3rd time, measured it 4 times, cut it, threw away the bad piece, and it still didn't fit. Then it dawned on me. I looked over at Andy or Matt, whichever one it was, and I said, "Uh-oh, I've been throwing off the good piece." Well, in that moment, he wanted to throw me off the roof. Well, those were a few stories from our first trip, but there are many more. How about the time when Manly was telling my wife that when you back up a vehicle, you must use the side mirrors. That's what a good fireman does, and that's what a good driver does. So, being the good fireman that Manly is, he wanted to show Denise how it was done. So he got in her vehicle, started to back up using both side mirrors, and backed right into a bush. No harm done, but point made. My goodness. Do you remember having the supper meals at the big table, like the Waltons? We ate good food. We had lunches come to us by the cooks, and what great cooks they were. They delivered our sandwiches, and as I recall, even the chicken salad had grapes in it. What toolman could ask for any more? I also remember breakfast, and my favorite breakfast on the work trip was always something like Cocoa Pebbles and those white powdered donuts, put on top, of course. You know, I went on that trip for all the years I was there at Asbury, but I've been really thrilled to hear so many stories that have happened since that time. In my own time, I also continue to be a wannabe toolman. Today here in my camp, I have my trusty dusty cordless drill, which I enjoy using in my home workshop and whenever I get the chance. Just listen to the sound this thing makes. Isn't that wonderful? But in all seriousness, I do have a job to do in a few minutes. When I'm done here, I have to go underneath our modular home and repair a leak in one of our PVC pipes. So to do the job, I went to the home center today and I bought these nice, wonderful ratcheting clippers that are gonna cut. Eventually, they're gonna cut that PVC pipe at the right length. I'm gonna measure 5 times and cut once, boys. And then also to repair the job of putting up the insulation underneath all the plastic, I have my duct tape. So I figure with these 3 tools, I can fix about whatever comes my way today. You know, the work trip is a wonderful experience, as you all know, because you've been there before. But I want to share with you one last thing, and that is that way back when we started it so many years ago, I'm not sure any one of us had any inkling of just how many people this experience would touch, how many lives would be changed. Now, I had some parents mad at me after that first trip, primarily because I like country music, and in my pickup truck on the way down, whoever was honored enough to be with me in my vehicle not only listened to country music, but they learned to love it. Some of you have been to Tim McGraw and Faith Hill concerts. Some of you still listen to country music, and I know I do. So we never knew how many lives were going to be affected or changed by this work trip. But it does my heart so much good to hear that you guys are still doing this every year now. The legacy can continue because of the toolmen, because of the cooks, because of the volunteers, and because of all you who want to make a difference in the lives of those people down in Philippi, West Virginia. You know, there's some good people down in West Virginia, and they need our help. But you know, the funny thing about a work trip is that as much as we think we're helping them, somehow or another, they're helping us too. You know, we can't go on a work trip and come home the same. Things happen. Things change. We learn something. We experience something. We meet new people. We learn new languages, new words. And all that is part of being a Christian in the world today. I am so honored to know that what we started so many years ago is still going on even this year. Keep it up. Keep working. Keep learning how to use tools. Keep meeting new people. And keep making a difference through the work trip to Heart and Hand in Philippi, West Virginia. Thank you, and have a great celebration.